so the point that I wanted to come back to is that these matches are coming thick and fast. And England winning the toss and getting first use, and you'd think that would be a big advantage. Also, brave selections to leave 2 or 3, household names.
Thanks very much, folks, for joining me once again. Saj Sadiq here on behalf of PakPassion.net, bringing you another exclusive interview. This time it's with a regular contributor to PakPassion, somebody who I always enjoy speaking with, listening to his forthright views, former player, captain, umpire. He's done pretty much everything when it comes to cricket. Fantastic commentator over the years, still doing his commentary and his journalism as well. The one and only David Bumble Lloyd. Bumble, thanks very much for your time once again.
Yeah, good to chat again. And, it's been a good series, Saj, hasn't it? A topsy-turvy series with England steamroller in that first test match, and then Pakistan, with all sorts going on, got it right. They got it right.
Well, that's what I was going to come to first, Bumble. After that first test match, Pakistan scored 500 plus and they still ended up losing. Who would have thought that they'd come back and win 2-1? It's just typical Pakistan cricket, isn't it?
It is. And of course, after that first test match, there'd be all sorts of things going on in selection, in preparation, in what pitch should we play on, and who's got the final say, captains under pressure. And they win the second test match and then go to Pindi, and that was quite an eccentric pitch that they produced. I love watching it being done. They've got heaters and all sorts. I thought that was brilliant. But, I just said right at the beginning, they got it right. And so there's got to be praise for the selectors. There's a bit of ridicule going on. Oh, they've got an umpire selecting the team. And what's the coach do? Captain's no good. Well, they turn things around, and, after going 1 down in a 3-match series, you're really up against it. So it's a big effort to come back and win two matches back to back.
Just on that Pindi pitch, Bumble, have you ever seen those big heaters out there in the middle? Out there, you've seen a lot of pitches. You've done a lot of pitch reports over the years, Bumble. Some on cricket pitches and some away from the cricket pitch as well. But have you ever seen that before?
Well, I mentioned that, I think it's 35 degrees. Why do they want more heat? And so I thought it was quite amusing. I had a real chuckle at that to dry the pitch out. I mean, I can't think there'd be any moisture in it. But whether it helped the pitch or not, it was a spinning pitch. It started as a spinning pitch. Both teams picking 3 frontline spinners, and England winning the toss and getting first use. And you'd think that would be a big advantage. They had Pakistan in that first innings, 187 for 7. And then the game was just taken away. And from thinking that you're going to have a nice, healthy lead, first innings, they had a deficit, did England.
And, I mean, looking at the Pakistan comeback, Bumble, there's not many teams that could have done that. I guess there's some method behind the madness there, wasn't there? Make pitches that suit your conditions, suit your best players at the moment, because Pakistan haven't got those Waseems and Waqars and Shoaib Akhtars these days.
Well, both spinners, I think we mentioned previously that the spinners have a combined age of 69. So, they've been round the block. Noman Ali was sensational. He's bowling finger spin, and make no mistake that to produce a pitch like that and pick a 38-year-old, you're telling him you've got to deliver. But he had all his experience, and he spins the ball and he bowls accurately. And so, you talk about method in the madness. I think Pakistan showed good control. And I'm talking about control off the pitch. It's not always the case. When you talk about Pakistan, it can be a bit chaotic. But I think there's been a bit of calmness after that first test match defeat. Right, where do we go from here? How do we turn it round? And they had good method, really good method.
And you play to your strengths, don't you, Bumble? And there's been
Yeah.
some criticism about sort of Pakistan resorting to spin attacks. But as I said before, gone are the days of your Waseems, your Waqars, Shoaib Akhtars, and those guys. We've got Naseem Shah, Shaheen Shafii, who are young, upcoming pace bowlers, but they're not as well drilled as those greats that I've mentioned before. So you have to play to your strengths, don't you?
Well, and also brave selections to leave two or three, household names, fabulous players, leave them out. So there's been some influence there from either chief selector or selectors or coach. This is what I want. You've got to have a calmness with your method. And I think they've shown that. So there should be high praise in Pakistan for the way, collectively, everybody's had a bit of an influence in turning a 1-0 deficit in a 3-match series at home, turn it round and win 2-1. I have no problem with spinning pitches, no problem at all. Wherever you go in the world, you get different pitches. You might get high bouncy pitches in Australia and South Africa. You might in England get pitches that will just nibble around because of the atmosphere and the weather that we get. And if you go to India, Pakistan, and Sri Lanka, just expect it's going to spin. And you've got to play accordingly.
Regarding selection, Bumble, you've touched upon it earlier in this chat. Obviously, some controversy at the moment regarding whether captains and coaches should have a say in selection. So at the moment, the way it's operating is that the head coach and the selectors are picking the squad and they're picking the final 11. As a former captain, coach, you've held various roles in cricket. What do you think about that? Shouldn't the captain and the coach have a say in who's picked and the final 11?
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. From a domestic point of view, when I was captain at Lancs, I almost picked the team, almost. Yeah, it was my team. If you go to England, and when I did the job with England, I saw my job with England to support the captain, whether it be Atherton or Stewart. And whatever they wanted, they got. We had a selection committee as well. Now, I wasn't on that. I wasn't part of that. So the comeback there is, if somebody talks to me in interview about your selection, and this is an Australian thing as well, the way that they do it or did it, or don't talk to me about selection, I didn't select it. You need to talk to the selectors. So there's no comeback on me as coach. You've given me the players. I'll work the players and give them information, strengths and weaknesses of what we're going to come up against. But don't talk to me about selection. It's nothing to do with me. But there's a shift now. There is a shift. And you talk about controversy. And it would appear that Gary Kirsten has just packed up as one-day coach, maybe because he ain't selecting the team. Well, I don't see a problem in that because I would just come back if anybody give me about your selection. Don't talk to me. That's the other people you need to talk to. But I think there has been a change. And Mickey Arthur on social media has come in and said that he needs to have a say in the players because he's working with them. It's a good debate.
Yeah, because ultimately it's a results-based business, isn't it? And if the results aren't coming, Bumble, then it's the coach and captain who are going to get it in the neck first. But as you say, if they turn around and say, well, it's not my 11, not my squad of 16, it just makes for a strange atmosphere. And that's probably one of the reasons why Kirsten's walked out.
It's awkward, isn't it? It's an awkward situation because, cricket is quite unique in that there's a selection would very carefully, very, very carefully, choose a captain. He's the leader. For in test matches, like 7 hours. He's in charge. So it just follows that he actually needs his team. He needs my 11. This is the 11 I want. because I'm going to work them when I'm out there tactically. And I also think that's a good debate. And I'd sort of favour that, having done it and supported Stewart and Atherton. You know, it's actually their team. They need their team. So, you know, Shan Masood is captain of Pakistan. Does he get the team he wants? Is it his 11? I think that's a great question. Is it his 11 because he's just left out some stellar players?
Speaking of stellar players, Bumble, Saud Shakeel, obviously left-handed batter, bit like yourself there, showed how to bat on these spinning, turning tracks. Some wonderful innings by him, wasn't there, during the series?
Yeah, and dangerous as well, coming in where he does, when you just think that you're on top of the game as the opposition, and a player turns the game, he flips the game. And you know, you want them in your side. You want game changers. You don't want passive players in your team who look nice, they're okay, doing all right, but the opposition aren't putting that name up on the whiteboard. They ain't putting that up there. Just be careful of this guy. And so you need game changers, and it's proved to be exactly that.
Regarding England's approach, Bumble, during the series, obviously 1-0, it was all looking good, 800 on the board in that first match, and then it went horribly wrong. Some quarters, they're getting a little bit of stick regarding their adaptability on these types of surfaces. What do you say about the approach of the England batters, particularly in the second and third matches?
Well, it didn't work. You know, the approach, I'm going to just park that for a second and come back to 187 for 7 Pakistan first innings. No, it's not the batters there. That's the bowlers. You've got to finish that off. You've got to finish that off. 187 for 7, and you need a lead, and you will get a lead, and then you're bossing the game. They didn't get to that situation. So, you know, I've parked the batters perhaps didn't do it. I think they could adapt a little bit more than they do. But I would point at the bowlers because the situation was there. Now, knock them over, 7 down, get 9-10 jack out, and you then are bossing the game. We didn't do it. The game was taken away, and we had a big deficit, and I feared the worst there. And so England's second innings on a wearing pitch against 2 classy bowlers weren't up to it. And I think Stokes in his interview said just we weren't up to it. But there's another point that I want to come to later. You carry on for a sec.
Well, I was just going to ask you particularly about the likes of Harry Brook, Bumble, who made a triple century in the first Test match. Then he struggled on the turning pitches in the second and third Test match. Is that a problem with the technique? Is it the approach? What's going wrong there? I mean, I'm sort of emphasising Harry Brook, but there's a number of players who struggled in the second and third Test matches on those turning tracks.
Well, Pope, Stokes, and so the point that I wanted to come back to is that these matches are coming thick and fast. I watched carefully Stokes' interview after the game, and you know, I feel a little bit sad. And I suspect you do too, because there's really no time for preparation or reflection. Because England now, they're off to New Zealand. Now, the white ball team are in the West Indies. I'm going to be working on that next week down at TalkSport. So they're all over the place. And it's almost like a jamboree. Having finished the English summer and the Test matches, get to Pakistan, play 3, get yourself over to New Zealand, play some more. You've no real time to reflect. And as Stokes said, we're going to New Zealand and know that it's going to be totally different than it's just been here. But if any player is worth his salt, and you can talk about Harry Brook and Pope, and Stokes, talk about the others. they've got to sit down and reflect, how did I play in those circumstances? Because I wasn't up to it. I didn't get it. I didn't produce. And so you as a player have to reflect on that and come back better. When you go to that subcontinent again, go to Asia again, go to India, Sri Lanka, you've got to play better than you have just done in Pakistan. Now, they would do that. But I come back to that point, they've no time to sit and reflect, and they're going to have to get on a flight at some stage. No real preparation in New Zealand. They know what's going to come, and it'll be totally different than it has been in Pakistan.
It's the same for Pakistan there, Bumble. It's a good point you make. They're off to Australia now for a T20I and ODI series, and then from there they're off to Zimbabwe for a white ball series as well. I mean, modern day scheduling and the amount of cricket being played, Bumble, it's just crazy, isn't it?
It's like being in a washing machine. You're just tumbling around, and it just, the people that I chat to here in the UK, and given in the UK now it's right in the middle of the football season, there's no real chat about the cricket and how the test team is done. There's no sort of comeback. I don't get any debate going. Everything's football, football, football. There's no real chat that the test team have just been rolled over in Pakistan. That might be the circles that are moving. But it is a bit of a jamboree that we're seeing at the minute. Some white ball teams over here, the test teams over there. And it's almost like your selectors and your coaches and your captains are just spinning plates. We've got to get that going, got to get this going. And so, I'd like to see more of an event. You can prepare well and then just reflect on it afterwards.
And just final point, Bumble, is the World Test Championship. I mean, you've got the standings there, and obviously the top two teams playing the final. But the number of games that the teams are playing, I mean, you've got one team who've played 18 tests, one have played 9. I know this is something that you've mentioned in the past. Just ridiculous, isn't it?
But I mean, whether I'm right or wrong, I just disregard it. I think it's a joke. I thought, did I see that West Indies have just played one test? They've not played many, so it's totally disjointed. That they're not playing each other the same amount of games. Australia, England are playing loads. Other teams are not. They're not because they ain't got the finances. The finances are all with Australia, England, and India. So it doesn't just seem to be a level playing field to me. And I look at, I've mentioned football. I look at the Premier League. They played 9 matches. They've all played 9. That's it. That's how you judge a league. If you've all played the same amount and you're all playing each other, they're not.
Home and away, because obviously,
yeah,
some teams, the likes of India, aren't playing against Pakistan either home or away. So how can you actually call it a proper World Test Championship?
Well, they do, and eventually we'll end up with 2 teams that will play somewhere. And if they're outside our house, I'll shut the curtains.
All right, Bumble, thank you very much for your time. Always brilliant to listen to your views, and I'm sure we'll catch up at some point later in the year.
Yeah, and I probably won't have my beanie hat on. It's cold.
So you're off to the Caribbean then, Bumble, or are you reporting from...
No, from the studio down in London.
All right. I was going to say, if you're off to the Caribbean, you won't need your hat.
No, I wish I were going. It'd be lovely.
Thanks very much, Bumble. Take care.
Bye, Saj.